is. We get 3 recordings.
I was clicking the wrong button.
Before I was so rudely interrupted. I'm Pat Malone, Commissioner.
Nancy Wise, Commissioner.
Joe Kirby, County Administrator.
I'm Chris Westfall, I'm Charter Administrator and Transfer Code.
Jesse Ott, Deputy Director of Benton County Natural Area Park and Events.
Corey Grogan, Benton County Public Information.
Maura Kwiatkowski, BOC Office Executive Assistant.
And now we'll go to those joining us online. Sheriff, why don't you start?
Jeff Van Arsdal, Benton County Sheriff.
I see Suzanne Hoffman there. Morning, Suzanne. All right. Anybody else online that wishes to introduce themselves this morning? If not, we'll go to announcements. Are there any announcements for the good of the order? Hearing none, review and approve our agenda. Any changes? Hearing none, consider the agenda approved. First up, Historic Courthouse Advisory Committee update. Jesse Ott and Chris Westfall. Go ahead.
Good morning.
Start.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Well, I just wanted to start by saying Chris, is really the driving force behind this effort, and it's been great to watch Chris work and work with him on this project and pull the community members together. And so I know, he's got the bulk of the information, but we wanted to give you an update. And Chris and Lynn had been here in December, was it? And so we wanted to come back and provide you an update on where we're at this point and some of the changes and kind of the road ahead.
Thanks, Jesse. So commissioners, we had promised you we'd come back and provide a status update about this time of the year. And give you an update of, and as Jesse just mentioned, what we're looking for to occur as we close this out, as we move towards closing this out. So since we've met, we have taken the universe of possibilities from everything. We work that through a process where we have, well, first I should say, we have 10 active community members who are involved in the committee. There are a wide range of individuals representing stakeholder groups, including the general community, resources such as museums, OSU, historic preservation, construction, and repurposing interests across a wide spectrum of individuals. So we have a very engaged group. As Jesse mentioned, the team is working very well together, focusing on this very closely for trying to come up with a recommendation. Now, I was just mentioning we've taken the universe from everything down to a process that winnowed it through into big buckets of topics. And we looked at things such as arts and culture, government and civic, family-oriented projects and activities. Now what we've done is we've taken that big bucket list from 5 down to 2. And what we're trying to do now is look at a way to come to a process closed through here, taking us into public outreach to help inform our final recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. How we hope to do that is we've now focused on working in subcommittees. So we're working in groups to look closely at the 2 big buckets, and those currently include arts and culture. In one big bucket, we have a subcommittee working on that diligently, and a subcommittee working on looking into more finite specifics around arts and culture. Sorry, I said arts and culture, government and civic functions. Those are 2 large buckets. Now what we're looking at is what would fit into those large topic areas and what are the pros and cons around those What kind of things could we recommend would be viable in this space? So what we have now is time frame. When we met, when I came and met with you previously, we had anticipated we might be resolving this into September. And I was appreciative of the opportunities that you afforded us, that maybe that could expand because things have changed. When we were having that conversation with you and Lynn and I were here previously, that we were figuring out the idea of the public engagement starting in May, that time frame. We set then asked to delay that into June, July time frame. And so that then pushes back our timeline, and we're anticipating potentially resolving this into December at this point. In support of that, Corey Brogan has met with us. Jesse and I had a preliminary conversation with them about supporting the public outreach process, and we're very excited. It was a really good meeting. We look forward to having that contact move forward, because it looks like we can really engage the community across a wide range of modalities. And so such things as direct one-on-one public meetings, some blend of hybrid and remote sessions, some polling potentially, as well as some online presence. So we can not only present information, but elicit response. And so our commitment as the committee is to not just do a public outreach, just to check the box and say that we did that, have it on our report, but to really provide a meaningful opportunity for the community to see the process and see where we are with that process, looking at these two options that we're still working to resolve with that, and then have an opportunity for the community to receive feedback from the community participation in order to incorporate that into our then final considerations of options, whether to incorporate some of those or at least identify why they wouldn't move forward. So that's really the next step. The next big process that we're going to be taking is the public outreach. As we're going through that, one of the things that I've been working in conversation with Joe on, Commissioner, is to have the opportunity for someone to help us write a report. As I've characterized it, the committee is comprised of a lot of able and willing editors, probably not anyone who's going to draft a full-on final report. But we want to provide you with the whole scope of what we've looked at, and like for that to be a product that not only are we proud of and we feel represents our full scope of work, but also gives you that full material then at your hands to be able to go forward and consider there. So while we don't have yet anyone identified, whether that would be a county employee or someone contracted out, we do have the understanding that that's a resource that we'll be able to have at our disposal. So I really appreciate that support. The community is excited to have an opportunity. Hopefully we'll be able to have that individual come on summertime, July, June or July, and work with us through to the end of the process, even though would not necessarily be drafting something at the beginning part of July or summer, but at least would be able to be present and participate and observe how these meetings are going, so they can really engage with us rather than just dump a whole bunch of data and start to kind of make sense of it. I'd really like to have this individual or individuals coming in and seeing what we're doing and being able to draft that from that process. So that's a very high level overview of where we are right now. We are comfortable that we're moving forward. As Jesse mentioned, we've got a good group of individuals working on this. They're diligently investing their time and really, I would say, had a vigorous discussion all across the concept. We've got a very for me, it's been a very optimistic process to go through. There are definitely strong opinions about where we might go with this. But everybody's working collaboratively to come through that with a consensus when we get there. So I invite questions.
I'd say I'm glad that we have delayed the public engagement, because we will know whether the bond measure is passed or not, and it helps us know real and actual this question is. And I think we'll get a much different level of public participation and engagement. And I think we know for certain that yes, the courthouse. Well, we know the courthouse is already meeting, but the VA, we just after that, forget all of that. I'm still wearing a hat from time that's gone by. But I still think it will get better engagement, because it will seem so much more real to people, because I don't think people, it has sunk in fully that the courthouse is happening regardless. What's the bond measure, we know the data that I think people will have a different level of awareness. So that's good. I like the plan. Has anyone spoken to folks over at Oregon State University about whether there might be some intern capacity that could help out? It's in that summer period would be really ideal for some sort of a summer grad student hire, maybe in the arts program or in communications, something like that.
We're trying to respond to that. We have not avoided that opportunity. I put this on Suzanne's radar. And I do think that we have several internal folks that might be at a point where they could, one of them could potentially advance this. If not, we would certainly look to that or look to contract with someone at this point. We have not pursued it this year.
Okay. Just thinking about their new arts and performance space and, you know, the also doing double duty and wanting to make sure that as we're coordinating with them, you know, as we think about evolving the use of the courthouse. I don't know who from the Oregon State University is involved in the committee.
You do, Peter,
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, they're
Director.
good.
I just won't know his name.
Say it.
But yes, he is involved in the
Good.
program.
Well, I had similar thoughts and comments to Commissioner Ogerow. It's a 130-year-old building. What's the hurry? Let's get this right. And also, I think we're having enough difficulty explaining Jason phase 1, the courthouse, DA's office, phase 2 is dependent on successfully passing bond in May. And then but it just makes sense to have this come in a little bit later, so it's not all confused with many other projects we have going.
I have another question, and that is, the whole question of seismic stabilization, and have you all been grappling with the various levels of investment that would be required with one strategy versus the other, changing use, not changing use, and the cost implications of one or the other?
To an extent, Commissioner, we have, what we've looked at is we identified seismic condition as a pro and a con for every reuse type. So at some level, we've had robust discussions about seismic as we went through the universes, everything.
Yeah.
where we are now, and so what we looked at there is at some. The only way that we identified that the seismic would not have to be triggered is if the use and occupancy were to stay the same.
Yeah.
In other words, a government civic use tax. So that would be a pro. I'm just talking about as an example. That would be a pro for that use type repurposing. However, I would anticipate, and I don't want to foreshadow too closely, but I would anticipate that our final report would recommend that seismic stabilization be addressed at some time.
Yeah.
So even with the government civic use, while we could say that could be a repurposing use that doesn't require seismic stabilization, it would probably still be recommended that it be done in the future.
They're not mandated, but certainly desirable.
Right.
Yeah.
Any other reuse type, our understanding at this point is that would trigger a
Yes.
seismic upgrade.
Yeah.
And that is then a con, if you're looking at it just as a financial element, but it's also a pro, because then it
Yeah.
stabilizes building and makes it safe for occupants. So it's not about, and there are varying degrees of safety or
Yes.
stabilization that could be accomplished.
Yeah.
Trying to achieve levels of safety. So we're continuing to address that in our
Good, thank you.
So we've identified it as a pro and a con in each bucket.
Yeah. Thank you. I just didn't, I wanted to make sure that that was being explicitly considered and not just, well, again, like earlier.
One thing I will say though, that you prompted my thought on this is, we have not been exploring doing a feasibility study as expense.
No, yeah, that's the next phase.
Right, something that would inform the feasibility, a greater feasibility study. So we have identified that we know what the cost estimates were, but those were old reports now. And so there's really no point in us using those other than as a relative scale. Of
Yeah.
This level might be this much and you can go up.
And even the technology for seismic rehabilitation has changed some since those reports were written. That it can be done a little less invasively, so to speak, than.
Some under.
Yes, exactly.
Model.
So, yeah. I think that there's an awful lot of engineering that would have to follow.
Well, the technology is getting out there and keeping up, so are the costs on many of the other elements.
Yep.
So that's one of the challenges is cost. From the prior reports, if you look at, I've looked at those three that we do have on hand, and they are of course going up
Yep.
incrementally, and now that slope is going steeper.
So I just wanted to share some feedback in general, so in, with the with my political action committee hat on, I've been kind of pounding the pavement, getting out, talking to people about Jason. And one piece of feedback that I've heard from several individuals is concern that they have not heard anything that's going to be going on with the new courthouse. And so I think that maybe we've gone one step too far in the trying to separate the two and, not confuse people. I think maybe the county would be well served to bring a little more visibility to this committee and let people know that yes, we are working on it. And it's not just something that we're. Oops,
Maybe promoting the fact that there will be an extensive public engagement period in June, July timeframe, trying to get that out now would be a good idea. And I agree.
And even just, hey, did you know that this committee is happening and public comments is available, maybe you'll ever do and.
Yeah.
That's a good. We do have, new publishing agenda, and we have a public comment section at the beginning of the meetings. We haven't had any participation, and it could be, to your point, Commissioner, that it's just not generally known.
Yeah.
Commissioners, I would just try and think through what that might look like. Just a cautionary notes and or this safe harbor environment. And so any communication that is provided needs to make sure it's not like advocating or promoting. I think that we should have to be concerned.
Sure, yeah, I think the focus would just be on the historic portion.
Yeah.
The advisory committee would just never come along. So.
Yeah, except for the bond, it doesn't,
I agree with that.
Anything
Unfortunately,
to do with
it's, I just spent some time reviewing some of the feedback from the state yesterday, and I just think we need to be hyper vigilant to ensure that we're not putting anything out there that can be perceived. Because the public doesn't understand in many ways the nuances of what's being included in the bond, what's not being included in the bond. So anyway, just caution.
But we want them to understand, right? That's the goal.
Yeah, and what we've previously heard was that we could continue to talk about the crisis center and even the new courthouse, it's because it's factual, it's not, and we would stick to the factual. But I do think we owe it to people to let them know what this is going on. I've had the same sorts of one-on-one conversations, and yes, people are reassured to know that this work is ongoing, but it's not very useful.
Now we have had a piece of information that there will be public comment starting this summer. And so speaking factual, it's not theoretical or floating, it's committee's first phase of your work is wrapping up, and after that comes public comment during the summer, and final report by the end of the year. So we have a little time to.
I want to say too that Chris might be doing an excellent job. I don't think we would be where we are now without his leadership. So thank you.
And it's been a really easy transition, with Lemon's departure and Jesse stepping in, and so these two have continued to carry their baton without a hiccup.
And that's really, and thank you, Commissioner. That's really where we are, is with the team. And Jesse's help, we're working and working and they've been supporting us very well. So I feel like we're in a good position. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions or comments?
Commissioners, I would just ask Chris and Jesse work with Florian, talk more about that, what communication should occur and how that should occur and when it should occur.
Well, I mean, it's almost like phase three. Our Jason project. Phase one, we're doing now courthouse, new courthouse, phase two, is bond dependent and. By following this phase three. But these are all connected in some way.
Very good. Thank you all. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we're going to have a communications update. We have quite a bit of information in the packet. Take it away, Cory.
Okay,
I'm
well,
gonna-
Maureen's gonna take a minute here to pull up the slides, so we'll get started while that's happening. It's in your packet, there's the first slide, it's a strategic communications update. I appreciate this opportunity. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased, but I do feel that strategic communications are very important for an organization, and it's important to put resources into that. And I'm excited about the work that we do. So to be coordinated purposely, to share consistent information for transparency, but also to highlight the good work that we're doing. So people really understand what the county's doing. There's a lot of information in here, as Pat mentions. This will be more information than I would typically give in a briefing like this, but it's also to kind of cover some of the stuff that's ongoing that I won't cover every time. You know, I've been here about 8 months now, and so some of these things we're just still getting set up, and I want to make sure that you all are aware of that. It's important for your awareness, and I want to allow you to ask questions and provide feedback as well. But again, there won't be as much to cover, and I won't cover it all in this presentation. We'll kind of skim through it, some of it pretty quickly. But again, this work directly affects the perception of our organization. So I do think that these briefings are in the works, that in the briefings are both important. So next slide, let me get my clicker going here.
At the computer. I'm gonna try to get this off the screen if I can.
You have to plug it.
Pointed at the computer.
Yeah, this
Um,
is computer towards us.
This one?
Yeah. Theoretically.
Is it not working? Is it turned on?
Should be off, on. Yeah, let's try it now.
Doesn't appear to be.
It's not working. Unless I'm doing something wrong.
Or can you just advance the slides?
Mhm.
Corey, why don't you serve as good one to use your.
Okay.
That way you don't have to turn your neck around. I'm sensitive about this conflict.
Okay, next slide.
Work here, it won't. Okay.
So we've done a number of awareness and outreach campaigns, as I call them. I usually put together a one pager to talk about what we're going to do. Depending on the awareness and outreach campaign, it can be a little bit more robust, but we do have some standard things that we do, sending something out to local media, coordinating with partners or departments that are involved, sharing on social media, and also sharing with our listserv, which I'll mention. We've made significant gains in our listserv, which I think is a pretty powerful communication tool. But some of the campaigns that I wanted to mention that we're doing now, we just made a video, which I'll mention later, about the ARPA grant in relation to the daytime drop-in center to coordinate with the health department on some hope outreach that'll be coming up. Again, we're going to do some more outreach with the ARPA grant, some of the good things that it's doing for the community. National pollution discharge elimination outreach did significant coordination with community development, environmental health. I interviewed Sam for a feature story that we're doing, which we'll talk about future stories. Other folks that were involved in the coordination for that to do some outreach to talk about those changes and really how they impact us now, but more importantly, how they impact us in the future to make our community, make the environment better in Benton County. Jackson Fraser Boardwalk renovation. We also made a video for that. We're working with Jesse's team and Abram to do some outreach on that. And then Chris mentioned the historic courthouse outreach, which we had started, which we talked about starting in June. But I'd like to coordinate with the JSEP team and some other folks and see if we can start getting word out about that a little sooner potentially. Anyway, so our social media channels, Facebook, Instagram, Nextdoor, Twitter, and LinkedIn are the social media channels that we have now. And I'm sure you guys are aware of that, but I just wanted to mention that. We use a program called Flash Alert for media releases, which is great because it's very well socialized. Pretty much all Oregon media subscribes to it, but also individuals can subscribe to it as well. So it kind of provides us with an additional listserv product. Other things that we can do, feature videos, which I'll mention later, advertising. We've been talking about potentially doing podcast and then photos, still photos and feature story write-ups. Those are some of the other things. Next slide. Okay, so some of the advertising that we've done. Bend Area Transit, we've done a considerable amount for that. JSIP Open House, Solid Waste Process Work Group, and another priority has been we're hiring in coordination with Human Resources, getting the word out about that. We have ongoing contracts going with some of our local news, Philomath News, Alsea Valley Voice, Corvallis Advocate. They're all very affordable, and we have consistent ads in those because and also I should mention we do that with community radio as well, KLRC. Those are all very affordable, so those can just go into our routine. But then for larger campaigns, or outreach, we can do events. But as far as advertising goes, we can also advertise with KEZI, Bi-Coastal Radio, social media ads. Those are some of the other things that we've done. Where when we have funding, it's another way to reach out. In addition, we've done a mailer, countywide mailer, where we can reach out to residents with a mailer. And John, put together a great analytics report, which I'll show you a little bit later. I'll show you some of that. So we can keep track and show that this is a good investment when it's done the right way. Some of the other things that we've been developing, we talk about strategic communication to make sure that we're doing this stuff with intention. We have an editorial calendar that we use. It's color coded, so we can keep track of different things that we're doing, events, press releases, video projects, and
Sorry, too far.
I can later on one of these I'll show you guys what that editorial calendar looks like, so you can take a look at it and let me know if you have any feedback. We also have a project list, so we can keep track of our ongoing projects. We usually leave the old projects on there and just cross them out, so we can also keep track of what we've done. And then in addition to that, one of my big goals moving toward the future is to put together a comprehensive strategic communication plan, which I've done in the past, and we've already started that process with an approved internal communications plan. We almost have our community outreach and engagement plan approved, and then eventually that would include a section for media relations, which I've already been working on some information for that. And we're working on policy updates, which I'll mention later, but also communication with stakeholders and crisis communications are part of a comprehensive strategic communication plan. Our listserv is something that I'm really proud of, and it's something that I've really been focused on because, again, I think it's a powerful tool, just as powerful, if not more powerful than even any of our social media, just because of the amount of people we can reach directly, and we can track that. So we know how many people are opening emails. We also know how many people are engaging with us. But we have that, we have a variety of listservs for community development, health department, JSIP, community development, and health department both have multiple listservs. JSIP, Benton County Talks Trash, Solid Waste Process Work Group. Those are some examples of listservs we have, but we have a main listserv, which we call our organic subscribers. And that's now up to over 11,000, which I think is pretty neat because, we only have 100,000 people in the county. So that means that we have over 10%, in potentially over 10% of the county subscribe to our list.
So that 11,000, just to clarify, is the sum total across all of those individual focused lists?
No, that's just our organic subscribers list.
Oh, so it's, okay, separate.
We did some work to combine lists and that
Yes.
went really well. And I think people for the most part really appreciated that.
Yes,
But yeah, so now we're up over 11,000 on our organic
that's
subscribers.
fantastic.
We've also had really good success with just going out to events and I think at the fall festival, we were able to get over 200, which I thought was really great. We got a lot at the JSIP open house, almost 100. And we're looking on taking on at least one more community event this year, which I'll mention later in this presentation. So we do the fall festival, we do the fair, and we're looking at doing the format for all of this year as well. We're already in the process of making that happen. Next slide. Recent events, so we've done quite a lot of events, the Joe with Joe events, the JSIP open house. Representative Hoyle visit, and that's not to mention we had the senator visit. We also had Congressman DeFazio visit before he left. So we continue to do that, and next slide. Upcoming events. Representative Rayfield is a visit to his office on April 6th. And so we may want to do some additional coordination with that, but I plan to go and bring John as well, just so we can get some outreach products and since it's quorum, we're gonna, we're gonna take video of it. We have one that's not on there, which is the Benton County Talks Trash Solid Waste Process Work Group Open House on April 4th. We're in the process of coordinating that with the community development team. That's going to be more a traditional open house like the basic open house was, with stations for each subcommittee. And we're doing some pretty heavy outreach to try to get community members there so they can learn about what's going on and provide feedback. It should be a good event. Representative Rayfield visit, and that's just an opportunity really for you guys to talk to him about whatever you want. I anticipate that'll be somewhat informal. We may want to think about presenting him with a gift or something like that. I'm working on getting some Benton County challenge coins, so I think those will. I'll be interested to see what you guys think about those as a product. If we have an employee that's doing good work, or if we want to thank somebody, it's something we can give them, and people. We use it in the military a lot. Law enforcement uses it. I think they're a fun thing.
I also am a big fan of the lapel pins.
Oh.
With our new logo, the lapel pin would look pretty nice. The old logo was challenging.
Can I get one of those? I would love.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we can look into that as well. I think that would probably be possibly even more affordable.
Yeah. yeah.
Another opportunity for outreach, when Nancy and I were in DC and during Congresswoman Val Hoyle's office, they had a lot of bare walls. They just moved in, and so probably if we can think of something appropriate for Benton County to give to the Congresswoman for her bare wall.
Yeah, even if it was just like a really nice framed still photo of that. Yeah, okay.
Is that picture still covering the hole or?
I have
Yes.
looked for-
I think so.
There will be a new, actually will be a new background that we're going to touch on later. Install where that picture is on. But yeah, I think that's a great idea. We could actually paint a mural on her wall, of our logo or something.
All of our faces.
Yeah. It's hard to forget.
Well, this seemed like a good opportunity.
Yes.
To remind. She has a large district. An important part of it.
Absolutely.
She needs to be reminded of that.
Yeah, and I love, framed still photos of a really nice scenic area that represents the area well, so. We can look into that as well on the lapel pins. JSIP City Speak, April 19th. With the Corvallis Advocate. I think you all are familiar with that forum, and there will be a good opportunity for us to talk with the advocate and the public about that. And then the party, lowercase p and lowercase y, with the word art in the middle, which will also be a part of our California Building Open House on April 20th, which I'll talk more about later. It's an important event for us, and I'm excited that I think it's going to be a lot of fun for the community, so hopefully we'll be able to get a lot of folks out.
I love the party piece. I have been staring at that for the last few months, wondering if that was intentional or not, so now I understand. That's clever. Whoever came up with that.
Yeah, so that's the branding part of it.
It took me 10 seconds to figure it out.
You're like quicker than I am.
Anyway, I think I'm excited about that one. It'll be a fun event. Philomath Frolic Rodeo, July 6th, 7th, and 8th. That, I'm also excited about that because we didn't do that last year, and so that's another opportunity for us to get into the community, and especially, with some of our areas that are outside Corvallis, which is nice.
Are you thinking about the parade or what do you have in mind for our presence?
We have a display. It's actually a larger area. What we're thinking about doing is bringing our photo booth and our table and just putting them together in the same area. So we have some games for the kids, Plinko and a spinning wheel. We have information about hiring, maybe some giveaways for the adults as well. And they can sign up for our Benton County organic subscribers list. And then just talking about what we're doing is another thing that we do. And one other thing I was forgetting.
So the same sort of presence as at the Benton County Fair.
Very similar to Benton County Fair. Yeah. But the photo booth is a lot of fun. It draws people in.
Yeah.
The games draw. I mean, we draw a lot of kids into our display, which is a good thing. And
Was that focused on kids or, because I went twice? The photo booth,
yeah,
it was good, we went with my family and actually the sheriff and I jumped in there and got one high fives.
everybody likes it. And so the youth like it too a lot. Though I would just say, I encourage all of you to come out for at least a day,
Yeah.
and we'd love to have that support. It's a great way to make a presence. Fall Festival is another one that we're doing again. And we just talked about what our display is going to look like. Next slide. Videos and feature stories. As I mentioned, we did a video on the community daytime drop-in center, a video on that. I think it's really neat. And, I'll make sure that you guys have an opportunity to look at that. And strike an emotional chord at the end. And that was one of the things that we were trying to do. Just, somebody sees the video, maybe it changes their perspective a little bit. But we also mentioned the ARPA grant there, and Teresa is in the video. So Allison Hawkins in the video as well, and one of the folks that has benefited from the services there is in the video. We made a video for the JSIP Open House that was successful. And that's one of the things I wanted to mention, because when we do some of these events, especially if they're in person and folks can't show up to the event, it's a good idea to do outreach after the event, post on social media. Sometimes we can send it to media and they'll post our still photos when our B-roll video, so we do that as well. We just made a video about the Jackson Fraser wetland. That is very, very good video as well. And so again, we highlighted Jesse, we highlighted someone from Afana, we also highlighted a woman who was out there with her children, and they just love the place, and so they were able to comment on that.
Jesse did a really nice job.
He did a good job, and the videographer we used for that project, Jeff Silverman, he's local, he's very good, does excellent work, so.
So I have not seen that one yet. Have you shared it?
Not yet, I will share that with you. We're still kind of waiting before we do the outreach push, but I also want to show you the feature story that we did on the new stormwater permitting, which is another one. But yeah, Jesse did a great job, and I think that's an important thing to mention is identifying those folks who are really good at that. That's one of the things that we want to talk about strategically, figuring out who we should.
Yeah, I think Jesse was a natural for that, he did a really nice job.
Yeah. So, again, we coordinated on the new permitting, the EPA mandates and, did some outreach, a feature story on that. And we also, I'm working on doing some, follow-up products for the sustainability. There. Just went to the commission along with comments on that was a great event as well. So when we can, when we have the resources available, we can get out to these things, take some photos and some video, maybe do a little write up on it. It's definitely a value add for our strategic communications, public outreach.
So how was the sustainability there? I had hoped to get there, but had so many other things going on that didn't make it.
My opinion, it was excellent. I mean, it impressed me. I was, more than what I thought it would be.
Oh, it's definitely an event.
Well, and Ben County had a table, but tried to do a lot of different departments in one table. Tried to get a second table, they were full up. And I just in general, I appreciate the outreach and going to community events. I think traditionally the county's good at doing our job, not so good at letting the wider community know what we're up to. And the sustainability fair, I think, is well attended. This was the first one since the first in-person one since 2019. And so there was, I think, pent up demand and it has a following.
For sure.
Done it a dozen years, something like that, and so those that have been there in the past and kind of know what to expect, and that it has substantial content. So,
I think it's another one that's probably worth planning into the kind of the annual events calendar because it does have such a huge audience. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, we will do that. It's it's one of those things for me where it's important when you're thinking about it in advance, but when you get out there, you really understand why you should be present there.
Yep.
well, and we have a lot to highlight.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, we have, again, we have our sustainability program there, we have our community development representation as well as our health department. So yeah, it was a lot of great information that we were able to share with folks.
And pictures of the Justice Center project.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we're proud of, right? And that's why I was glad we were able to talk about that a little bit. It's about how, some of these newer construction projects for the county, they are best practices when it comes to sustainability, so. So yeah, that was great. Move on to the next slide, publications. Oh yeah, so no, go ahead and stay on this one. So this is a big one for me because our publications need to be developed or updated. We recently rebranded. When I got here, I was like, oh, I don't see any publications with our new logo, or there's some things that we really should have publications for. So I wanted to let you know that I'm going to make a consistent effort to try to do one publication at a time. Once one gets done, move on to the other one until we can get our publication program updated. One that we've been working on, we had some grant funding, and that's why I should mention that translate. We have grant funding for the outreach, and so we developed a publication for that, for the Bat Lift, and then the two Coastal Valley and the 99 Express. The solid waste process work group to promote the open house and other significant events. We're doing what we learned, is that there's a high demand for transparency with this. And so we decided to put some resources into promoting that. And one of those is a mailer that we just worked on. Flood publication, we also put together a flood publication in coordination with Toby and the Community Development Department. It's a mandatory, but it covers flood resources in Benton County and what to do before, during, and after a flood. And then the next one I think that we're going to work, and I've been coordinating with Jesse on this, is natural areas, parks, and events, and to do a publication for county parks, which we haven't in the past, but it needs to be updated.
On the flooding, Corey, is Brian Lee involved in?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, and so we actually, we coordinated, community development covered 1/3 of the cost. Brian and his program, emergency management, covered another third. So yes, we did coordinate with Brian. I think it's important that we mention that. Next slide. So some of the ongoing projects are analytics reporting, which I'll show you a little bit of that. And John, you put together a great report for that. Of course, our internal and external newsletter. We manage the brand program, whether that's new options for business cards, department logos. We're also exploring more. We'll talk a little bit about more. We'll talk about, we're working on California wayfinding and branding. Social media program, that's another big one that's ongoing. There's a lot of different things. When I show you the editorial calendar next month, see some of the things that we do outreach on: floods, JSIP, work, solid waste process work group, Black History Month, National Pollutant Elimination Discharge Center, warming centers, and weather alerts. Next slide.
I know those people.
So that's some of the other important projects that I wanted to mention are policy updates and our web redesign. So we're working on it, and we're going to the policy committee to get our media communications policy updated, social media. There's a couple of minor updates to that, and then the web project is going to be huge. And we're looking to hopefully get a web design specialist and to support that effort. Next slide.
You have a timetable on the web design?
I do not yet. I will follow up with you on that though.
Okay.
Last time Adam updated us, he said that by December this year.
That's correct. I'm meeting with Adam later today, but during my last update with him, it's first end of the year.
But they're-
Corey did put a plug in, so you may not have heard it for another position regarding web content coordinator. I can't remember the exact title. That is in the policy option packages, what the budget is being recommended.
Yeah, this is such a two-track thing. There's the technology that underlays it. It's kind of a web cycle. Keeping the content up to date is another gargantuan task, and keeping it consistent across departments so that it doesn't start to look really raggy.
Yeah, I've been a part of a couple of these now, and they usually take longer than what we expect. So I'm trying to manage expectations with it. And again, it's another one of those things where you want to make sure that you do it the right way. So getting it set up the right way makes it much easier.
Yes.
We've been talking about this for several years, so have an idea of how long it may take.
Yeah, and to the point of, the back end technological stuff is a lot of work, but the public facing stuff is important, and that's why we need to have training for plain language. And really, it also comes down to, getting the team motivated. So the people from the individual departments who are supporting that effort, it's going to take a collaborative effort to really do it right.
And attention to it, and the consistent attention. And I think one of the things that has been very challenging for me over the years is the fact that some of the major users of our website are our advisory committee members, and they how they feel about what they're doing is And sometimes just based on whether or not they see their presence reflected on the website, are there up-to-date minutes, are there up-to-date agendas, are there, can they find their own background documents there? And if they can, then they feel supported and they feel like the county is actually, helping them do their work, but if they can't, they feel very unvalued. So it's also some consistency across departments with respect to some of that information.
Yeah, it's very public facing. It's often maybe the first or the only thing that people see to gather their impression about the county. So, and then, to that point, I think it's really important to find that balance to how we, everything we need on there, but also streamlining.
Yes.
Because it gets way too busy and that can be a problem. So omit needless words and text and, hyperlink when we can. But we also want to catch people with good graphics and videos and photos and things like that. So that's kind of the aim of it. From public outreach.
Commissioners, I would like to really reinforce before we move on the great teamwork that both Corey and John demonstrate. I think they're one of the strongest teams within our county. When Corey was hired, Johnny just embraced him. And by the way, Johnny's in the background on our meeting this morning. She is present. And much of the work that Corey reflected this morning in the presentation is certainly supported by Johnny as well. But amazing teamwork between the two of them. Just couldn't be more pleased. And as I sit here and I see what's happening, I go back to when I was interviewing Corey, and he was describing the type of work that he'd like to do. And just virtually everything up there you described to me that you really enjoy doing, it shows.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Joe. And I would just say, two things on that. One, I completely agree with you. Johnny is a great teammate, and that's just key to being successful in this type of work, because we complement each other well and we're able to cover a lot of ground. So that's really, really important, and I appreciate it. Secondly, that was one of the reasons why I kind of took the lead and wanted to do this job, is because this is the type of work that I like to do, and having that comprehensive program and being able to, kind of go to work and do all those things and do it efficiently. So I appreciate the support.
Well, one of the things I really appreciate, as the communications program is, you're the fourth communications person, now county. And I think that what we have now is a better organized and functional operation than we had before, in the sense that you are serving not only the board, this office's needs, but also the departmental needs. But you seem to have a very organized process for doing so. As I understood it, when someone reaches out to you to work on a project, you put together a one-pager for a plan, and you have, kind of a menu of things that can be done and negotiate with them about it. That's something that was lacking in all of the previous iterations, was some sort of a standardization, and clearly COVID punched a huge hole in our aspirations to do that before. But thank you. Things feel very calm.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think, it seems like a lot of work, but actually doing these things, like putting the one pagers together and having that negotiation process and coordinating the right way, doing some of this work up front actually saves us a lot.
Clarifies expectations.
Yeah, but that's one of the things that I'm proud of, is that there are folks that know that they can come to me and they're reaching out for things. It creates a lot of work, so we have to find a balance and not try to take on too much. But yeah, I really enjoy this. I appreciate that.
I'm glad you pointed out, you early on, that you may be a seasoned veteran, but you've only been here for 8 months, and a lot of these things that you were mentioning, a calendar, well, you haven't even been through a full year yet. So I'm waiting for your second year and see how much better. Because I think you had a great background and actively working for what we should be doing that maybe we weren't. So I think they're off to a great start.
Thank you.
For my question, I have to admit, I haven't really thought about this much until Joe just mentioned it. I know Genevieve's title and role has changed so much, and I really appreciate the responsibility and coming along with the roller coaster, but what are your two roles? I mean, how do you guys interact with each other? Like, who's responsible for what?
Yeah, so my role is public information officer and Donovan's role is communication coordinator. And so I do a lot of the strategic planning and she helps me, implement a lot of these things, but we also coordinate together a lot as well. And so, I can ask her for advice on things as well. But ultimately I am responsible for, managing the brand program, social media program, the media policy, social media policy, the public information budget, things of that nature.
Thank you. I see you guys typing away and talking and running around the office, but I just gave that close attention again. And then I had a follow-up question too. So the sheriff's office has like their own PIO, right? So how do you guys coordinate with the sheriff's office to figure out who does what or?
That coordination's been excellent. I mean, they're autonomous sheriffs of local, unelected officials, so they kind of have their own program, but we coordinate with them on a lot of stuff, whether it's for outreach or if there's something that we need to know and they need to know. It's just a matter of establishing that relationship and understanding when to coordinate.
Do you think that relationship, I mean, are you there yet, or do you think there's still more work to be done, or?
I think we're getting there and it's been good so far, but I think we can do a better job of continuing to communicate even more and even better. Whether it's outreach opportunities that benefit all of us, or just keeping each other being proactive about keeping each other informed. But overall, I'd say the coordination's been great.
Thank you.
And speaking of coordination, what kind of coordination outreach do you have with Corvallis? Corvallis' EIO and part two of the question, how are the smaller communities, Philomath, Monroe, and what kind of coordination do we have there?
I'd say that's been really good. I think we're already off to a good start. And being here for 8 months, I've made a lot of connections, and the coordination with Patrick from Corvallis has been great. We have a regional communication group, so we've been a part of supporting that and taking on a leadership role. For the first time ever, we've started rather than just having meetings, we've actually been having training opportunities for that group, and that was something that we presented as an idea, and the group liked that idea, and so we're doing that. And as far as some of these local communities that don't have PIO, we're making connections in other places, whether that's with the Philomath Fire Department, if there's need to get information out about a burn ban, or Leah Williamson from ODF Regional, just a number of connections that are as well that can help us present information. So again, we're working with the Allison Valley Boys, Philomath News, and some of those local people who can present information to the community there, and just trying to make a variety of connections to be able to know who to reach out to at the right time to get the right information to the right people.
Well, earlier you mentioned using local media like the LC newsletter, and I think that's great, and it also has the benefit of supporting them. And a lot of times these are not flush organizations, and rural support sometimes I think can go a long ways.
Yeah, that's an important source for information, and they're barely getting by financially. I think it's definitely, I agree with that. We should support our community journalism.
With the change in, this is a micro question, but with the change in email addresses, I suspect that there's gonna be demand for new business cards, but, since there's overlap in those, email addresses for a long time, they're gonna be. We'll get email regardless of what we send it to. It's not a high priority, so how are we managing that?
That's something that we've been tracking and talking to IT about. And, honestly, trying to get everything with the old email addresses updated is pretty ominous. And with everything else that we have going on, you know, it's hard to think about how we're gonna do that. One, you know, thing is for the website, we're gonna be having a new website.
Yes.
So rather than trying to update, you know, in certainly Toronto level, we can try to start updating that, but when the new website, that'll ensure that all of that is updated. As far as the business cards go, we have a contract with QSL as the company that we use. And so we're already in the process, and I've had folks from departments asking, hey, can I have my old email on my business card? And my answer has been, just use all your old business cards. Yeah. Because we don't want to just throw away,
I don't wanna waste all that. No,
especially when, to your point, still works.
thanks.
Do we know how long the old emails are gonna work? I missed that.
It's gonna have to be for
Years, yeah, I think it's not anything soon, but they'll print those out.
that one's ominous. Another one that's pretty ominous is trying to get all of the branding updated, because we just did the brand and came into the new brand, which is great. But there's still a lot of stuff out there that I see in the old logo.
Signage all over the county. I came back from Lincoln County and finally saw the new logo on the sign, and it's very exciting. So, yeah.
And so that's on Public Works radar, but I think it's just, you know,
One by
a
one,
progression.
one by one.
When they need replacing. Replacing the new.
Yeah, all the vehicles, all the, it's just a long process.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that's one thing I would support is that you all are reasonable and supportive and understand some of the nuances of these things, so I appreciate that. Okay, so if there's no other questions, we can move on to the analytics part of it and the report that you want to be put together. And I'm not going to do a presentation on the whole thing, but there are a couple of things that I wanted to highlight. So next slide. So I just wanted to say that with this report, a couple of things that showed me is that we've had steady growth. We've been very consistent, very professional with our communication. So we have a tone and style to our communication, which I think it's important to have a tone and style guide when you're presenting this information. We have above average engagement with our social media, which is great overall. And it's nice to see that the most viewed items are public action items. So whether that's burn bans, sandbag locations, closures, you know, COVID stuff, we really see a spike. So that's a good thing, because we know that when people need to tune in for important information, the public will tune in. Another thing that gleaned to me was 164,000 emails that we sent, and 63% of those were open. That's well above the average. So people are reading our emails. As you'll see in this report, I'm gonna let you guys look through it more than presenting all of it, but in 2021, we saw a spike because of COVID, and that was the predominant thing that was really catching and reaching the engagement of our analytics. So next slide, next slide, next slide. And you guys, you all will be able to look through this, but next slide. So as one of the things I'll mention here again is we're seeing a trend of, you know, moving from COVID being the predominant thing that people are looking on social media to other topics. Next slide. Next.
It's okay on the speed reader.
Next. So I wanted to show you some of the examples of what we're posting on social media and how it's reaching folks. This is all content from 2021 and some of the stuff that we posted We use Canva for some of our designs. We're able to just design some of these things in-house, which is great. We also have graphic designers that we can use to do that too when you don't have the time or bandwidth to market a project. But you'll see in 2021, it's all COVID related. Some really good reach on that, posted 96,000. That's great for a lot of times local government, city and county have a hard time reaching large numbers on social media. So we just have to put that consistent effort forth, and then we'll see a spike when something happens like COVID or flooding or whatever it is. So that's 2021. Next slide. So now you'll see in 2022 that we had one with 92,000, which was an important road closure. So that was an important topic for the public, so it would get out there. Another closure, sandbag information, and we didn't even have flooding. So there was flooding, that post actually probably would have spiked. And then the burn ban information. So that was good to see that folks were looking at that. Next. So that one, the last one, I should have mentioned that is for Facebook. And so I wanted to show you this because this is another thing it's good for us to look at when we talk about strategic communications and analytics, is that the way that information is shared or viewed on Instagram might be different than the way it is on Facebook, might be different than the way that it is in the media as well. So it's important for us to know. So on Instagram, you can see the post in 2021 are still COVID related. But if you go to 2022, next slide, you'll see that they're a little bit different than on Facebook. The reach isn't quite as high. This is a newer social media account, but Park and Recreation Month. The heat stuff was played well on Instagram. Courthouse project. And the Pastega Lights cancellation. Next slide. LinkedIn, we are new posting more of the social stuff other than just jobs on LinkedIn. So we just started that in 2022, so we don't have the in 2021, but what's playing well on there was the swearing in. Again, the Pastega Lights cancellation, hiring, and the public information officer. So that, but you can see there the content is also different based on what channel it is. Next slide. Nextdoor. Nextdoor is great. It's a consistent way to reach folks because we, anyone who from Benton County Nextdoor, we can reach. But you'll see in 2021 out of COVID again. Next slide. And now in 2022, hiring, construction, our newsletter. So, and then fire restrictions. And Twitter. So Twitter is we get a pretty good reach still from Twitter sometimes with certain posts. But again, it was COVID in 2021. And next slide. Sandbags, trip check, travel conditions, cooling information, and weather warning. So I just thought that was interesting to see what our greatest reach was on social media platforms. But Twitter, I've known from the past, especially working in emergency management, will spike a lot when something's going on. It will go from basically nothing to having a huge spike, which is great because you can pick up folks that will follow your channel to help. So, but I'm definitely not going to wish for any emergencies or disasters to happen. And then we talk a little bit about our website and our email subscribers. I mentioned that our listserv is doing really well. Next slide. Advertising. So I wanted to show that, some of the ways that we're advertising are through, again, I mentioned the print and digital ads that we have in our local media. Radio, we've mostly just used Bi-Coastal Radio, which has Cricket and Blue, which are the two largest stations for our area, but it also has Peter Joe Radio. some other stations. And then KEZI has been great. They have a good reach. They're affordable. They're great to work with. They put together really nice ads for us. And so they've been a good partner. But, you know, also from a practical standpoint, that's what most folks in this area, for television news are tuning to KEZI. So next slide.
You also try to reach Orange Media with KDVR.
Yes, we've been working with them. We haven't done any advertising yet. But I can look and see if they have options for that.
They have a lot of, they don't have advertising, but they do have, public service ads. So, you know, if we have a job fair or if we're doing something sort of engagement in that, kind of say,
I think it's a great point. It would be a good thing to get into my routine and say when we have a 30-second PSA or
yeah,
just send it over to them if they're, I'll touch base and looking to follow up on that.
Well, I was impressed. Congresswoman Val Hoyle did her tour here and we had some footage on AEZI that day. That was pretty good response.
I appreciate you bringing that up because that's another example of earned media, because they didn't come out and cover that, but we took photos, wrote captions and sent some B-roll to them and they ran our story verbatim, which is great because it allows us to get the information out there in a really accurate way. So we appreciate that, those partnerships when we have the opportunity.
Well, and I'm sure Congresswoman appreciates that was covered. Comes out of her hometown.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So thanks for bringing that up. And then next slide. And these are some examples of some of our ads that we've been putting in print and digitally, and Wilmot News, Alsea Valley Voice, the Gazette Times, elections, COVID, JSIP. Solid Waste Process Work Group is not one that's up there, but Bend Area Transportation is another one. Next slide.
You mentioned the Philomath News, and I think Brad Fuqua does an excellent job of covering Philomath, and I know I talked to him ahead of time when he was here at the JSIP open house, and so I think that's a good relationship to encourage.
Yeah, I was able to sit down and have coffee with Brad. It's great. He explained it to me. It was good subscription base there in the local community. They do a lot of hyper local stuff, especially when covering sports. But really appreciated that he's been sharing some of our information as well. We're definitely supportive of that effort.
Well, like a lot of outlets, he appreciates having content delivered.
Yeah.
And he's serious about covering our area, and we've seen stories from the Capitol, or links to stories from the Capitol. So I mean, he's looks beyond just Philomath.
Yeah, well, I try not to be naive about it, but in a perfect world, we'd be good partners. Media are our partners, and we're both trying to do a public service. And so if there's information, about flooding or burn bans or road closures, we would hope that the media, would want us to provide that information, that when we do provide it, it's warming shelters or whatever, that they'll share that information. And so far, I think most of our local media has done a good job of that. I appreciate it. Next. Yeah, and then just one last thing on that is there's two types of media. It's the media that we pay for, but also I think that earned media is really important. Next slide. Next slide. So here's an example of some of our TV ads that we did. We teamed up with the Fall Festival and the Pastega Lights show. And for the Fall Festival, we did that with we highlighted Bend Area Transportation through the grant funding, but for the Pastega Lights, it was we're hiring, if you want to learn more about joining our team. Another Hollywood campaign that we did. And so we have some stuff going on right now for solid waste process work group. We're hiring and that we have 3 things running with KPCI right now. That wouldn't be typical. But again, we have the grant funding for the VAP program, and the solid waste process work group is another high priority topic. And then the hiring information is something that we want to get out there. And then in addition to that, we also have some other smaller scale stuff like we have an ad at the community YMCA in North Albany. And the South Paws Pizza. And those are very affordable, but it's just a good way to get out, to sort of target certain areas of the community to get a brand out there and let them know that we're hiring.
Well, I think the moral of the story is it's not like there's a silver bullet in here that you can contact one outlet and get good coverage. And I appreciate your creativity and looking at different ways to get the word out. That's the era that we're operating in.
Well, I appreciate that because I would just say, I always say there's lots of right ways to do it and lots of wrong ways to do it, and we can't do it all, but I have to take pride in trying to have as much of a comprehensive program as possible. So to your point, that we're, covering a lot of those avenues and trying to look at it holistically.
Well, and I'm sure you have tried things and didn't get much response, and you dropped that and had something else, and it's a dynamic area that we're operating in, and it takes some creativity to get the job done.
Yeah,
We are gonna need to move on,
I can run through the next one pretty quick.
so we could spend 45 minutes and we only have 30 minutes.
Oh,
For
okay.
this particular presentation, so I think we can wrap up and move on to item 3.3.
Yeah, so I appreciate that feedback and continue to work hard with the job done and prioritize right away. Or if you could skip all the way to the slide for the open house. I wanted to give a quick.
Oh, the
update.
handout.
What's that?
The
Oh,
hand-
is it in the?
The
I just
handouts in
wanted
the
to-
packet.
Yeah, I think
It's page 50.
I think I left mine over here. I'm gonna grab it real quick.
To be fair, we asked you a lot of questions.
Yeah.
We had some good conversation.
Yeah, it's been a very long time since we've had a presentation. So.
I appreciate the opportunity to express some interest in having this happen. This one will be a little bit more robust than future ones, but I just wanted to be able to provide that information. So I wanted to give a quick update on this real fast about the open house and Corvallis School District art party. We're in the coordination process for this. We're coordinating with the school district to support an open house featuring art from the Corvallis School District with a rainforest theme. We're going to do our invites to our listservs over your invites. I think this is a good way to draw a lot of the community to this event, but we'll have games and prizes with our Benton County table and our Punko game, and they're going to have music and other stuff out there. So it should be real fun, nice setup. We're splitting the cost of this with the Corvallis School District, so that's another great thing for both of us. But the party will start at 4:30. Corvallis will start their part outside. They have a little opening comment ceremony. We're gonna have our own ceremony, which is, I think we're just gonna contain that to invite only, because I'm a little concerned that we would maybe have too many people if we do it in here. So we're supposed to be getting the PA system installed, so if that's installed, we have an overflow capacity, we need to be able to do that, invite more of the community out. But those will be comments from the designer or from the construction and architect facilities, from the commissioners, and you guys can thank people who are involved in this. So it'll be a little piece about sustainability. Also, there'll be a piece from our EEI coordinator about how to do why the building. It's named California with land use agreement reading. Should be a fun ceremony, and that will kick off into the open house, which will be open to all the community from 6 to 7:30. And we'll have it set up in a way where it flows easily, that folks can look at art and they can also talk to people from each department in the California building, including our department here for the commissioner's office. And there'll be a little sign by each department with bullet points talking about, and they can talk about what their department does. But there's going to be greeters at the door, a pen outside, display. We'll have a wayfinding sign for the open house. Again, the rainforest theme with art dispersed. It starts with the lower grades at the rainforest floor, elementary, moving up as the grades get higher. So they're doing different parts of the rainforest, so that should be pretty fun. And we've been working with Paul and others to make sure that there's a good plan to hang art. They said Corvallis School District said there's possibly going to be music out there from either the band or the choir. We should have some giveaways. We'll sign folks up for our listserv if they're interested. Talk about employment opportunities. And this will be self-guided, which I mentioned. Any questions?
Is the idea of people, can just wander around the whole building, doors open?
Yeah, it'll be free flowing, but with that said, though, the idea also is that we have a greeter table to let folks know what's going on, and we'll also have folks from our team and the Corvallis School District team dispersed throughout, so to help guide people on top of them. So everybody was aware of what's going on.
Great idea.
And the open house portion for the building proper will start until 5:30, right? So,
Actually, yes, actually, our ceremony in here is at 5:30.
yeah,
The open house will open up at 6.
for the tours, so that people can finish their workday and be ready and.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then for the school district, will be out there and they're having their party out there.
Yeah.
And the open house opens up and everybody comes to the house.
build the energy.
Yeah. Well, and then I think they're gonna have some food and stuff out there too, and they have other food handling permits and things like that. Through the school district.
Will there be food carts?
I need to follow up on that because they mentioned that they are still thinking about how they want to do that. I think they're gonna have like their catering done with their resources that they have in the school.
Yeah,
Is that it?
That's all. That took a little bit extra time, but I appreciate you guys taking some time to listen to my presentation. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
We know where your cubicle is.
Excellent work.
Thank you.
Well, and I think the reason it took so long, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I appreciate getting updated. We want to take a short break.
We need 10 minutes, please.
Commissioner, before we sign on, when we come back, I'd like to jump to 3.6 next, because we're gonna break in Carla here, and then we can come back to 3.4 and 3.5, which involves more on the other. So.
Sounds good. So come back at 10:35. Okay. We will start back up at 10:35. And we will skip to 3.6 Community Health Center and Board of Commissioners scope applicant agreement update. Yeah, Superby, Brother Jones, and Rick. So.
And Commissioner, we also have Tracy Martin, who has been part of this journey as well. That's just a little bit of context, and I'll turn it over to Carla, who led this process. But you may recall that one of my goals back in 2022 was to work with Carla to come up with a revised draft of our co-applicant agreement that we have with Community Health Center Board. And to that effort, like Pearl has led, they range from anywhere from once a month to twice a month meetings, and holidays and vacations, and so on over the course of the last year. And we've actually done a very comprehensive review. We were hoping to be done by the end of the year, but we're not. 2022. So I wanted to give you a quick briefing on where we're at with this and what direction we're headed. If you have questions or would like to give us feedback on the next steps that we foresee occurring. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Carla, and Carla can walk you through in more detail.
Thank you, Joe. So I thought I'd start by just talking a little bit about our process, and then talking a little bit about the biggest changes that you'll see that will be presented to you in the next meeting where we all get together. And then just to tell you where we're at. So not only was it a goal of Joe's that you had for Joe to put this collaborative agreement to be in a more clear state, but we also had our on-site visit in person in the spring of 2022. And during that on-site visit, one of our very few findings was that they would like to see that our co-applicant was revised to be compliant with the personal requirements. So we both had an interest in making sure that this was clear and that everyone really knew what the governance and operational responsibilities were. So we started meeting monthly, like Joe said, sometimes bi-monthly or not bi-weekly to work on this project. We started with gathering other CHCs, community health centers that are in co-applicant arrangements. So we were lucky to get a copy of the co-applicant agreements from 4 of the other community health centers in Oregon who are public entities like ourselves. We're one of 6, so we were only missing Lane County was not able to get us their copy. They were in the middle of a lot of leadership transitions. So we had Multnomah counties, Tillamook counties, Lincoln counties, and we also had Crawford counties. After reviewing all 4 of those agreements, we realized that the Multnomah County and Lincoln County were quite advanced, and that Hawkins County and Tillamook County were more in alignment with where we were at that point in time. And so it looked like maybe they were probably going to end up doing some work on their co-op as well. So we're not in love with this. So we used those 2 as a base. They were basically very similar. I think what I've learned is that it started with Multnomah County and then Lincoln County, now us using the same template. We went from a 2.5-page co-applicant agreement to a 12-page co-applicant agreement. So there's been a lot of work. And through that process, we've really been learning a lot, which is great because I think that with all the changes in leadership, so Rick and I are new, and Tracy has been here for a while. And anyway, so it was really good for us to align, collaborate, and really start with, let's review the HRSA compliance manual. Let's review these templates that we received. Let's take all of that into consideration when we're coming up with what makes sense in the language of our co-applicant agreement. So through that work, we really spent, I want to point out, because I know that it's of everyone's interest, we really focused on 2 major areas. We went through the whole thing, but we were really adamant about making sure that it was very clear in the co-applicant agreement that the governance and the responsibilities over the approval, selection, and termination of the CHC director was clearly defined, and that roles are clearly they're clear. And then in a very collaborative approach. And then the other area that we really focused a lot of time on was financial approvals. And really getting a good understanding of what authority the CHC board has, because it's required by the federal government, and then what authority the county has in approving budgets. And so where we're at in the process is, we have a meeting today where I'm very confident that we will finish our first draft of the co-op agreement. Between the last meeting and this meeting, I did have Vance look at it. So Vance has reviewed it in its entirety, and I've applied his comments for which this group has not seen, but they'll see today. And then we should finalize today. The next steps would be to have this reviewed after a work session with Board of Commissioners. And then once that's ready, and kind of at the same time, we'll be doing this. I need to then take it to the CHC board for their review. So the thought was, let's use our internal county resources to work on this, get a good draft ready, and then present it to both the Board of Commissioners and the CHC board for feedback before finalization. So I guess I would see if Rick has any comments or Tracy has any comments.
No, I think I would just add appreciation for Carla and the great facilitation that she's done on this, because we have been pretty comprehensive in this, and she's been very gracious with us as we kind of go into all of the words and making sure that we have meaning along there. But it's been a good process. And for me personally, it's been good just from, like Carla said, I'm new and she's new, and it's good for us just to kind of get acquainted with the history and understand why we did things that we've done. So yeah, I think it's a good piece of work, and I'm really excited about it. I think from a financial standpoint, there's some good clarity that we put in place, and Carl and I will continue to work on improving that and making it better as we go forward. So just a lot of appreciation to Carla and her work.
Tracy, did you have anything?
Sorry, had to find my cursor. Apologies. I'd just say that it was a great learning experience. I think batting around some of those concepts really helped to deepen all of our understanding. And I just want to, give you a shout out, Carla. You just approached this with such an open-minded, in such an open-minded manner, and just with a true and sincere desire to just really, clarify this for future readers when none of us are in the room, and just really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, the previous 2-page version left an awful lot to the imagination. The very broad outlines of terms, but that was understandable why there was ambiguity and frustration.
And I think we've done a lot to clarify our understandings from both sides of the house, if you will, the CHC side as well as the county side. I'm excited for the board to see it, and hopefully we'll agree that it accomplishes the goal that we set out to achieve. And as my colleagues have shared, Carla has just she has just embraced that. She's been very open, and she's tried to balance her responsibilities as well as to the CHC board as well as to the county. And I reflected this in her recent performance evaluation that just occurred yesterday. That she just did a stellar job of teamwork and leading us through this.
Thank you. You were all easy on me, so I appreciate that. There were lots of very complex conversations, but I guess we worked really well together. Thank you all.
And Carla, the idea was you saw there's 4 other agreements and tried to figure out where the common themes were, and if Benton County had any special provisions needed.
Yeah, so Commissioner, if someone already has created something, I am all for not duplicating it and starting from scratch. So we would have literally needed to start from scratch from a 2.5-page document going to a 12-page document. So exactly that. I found a really good co-applicant agreement that had been approved by CRISA and used that as a template, so to speak.
That's why they invented cut and paste. huh?
Exactly. Yeah, so, we didn't, not comply with any copyright rules or anything like that, it's shared, so no public.
But we were really good to personalize it too. And that was
Yeah.
part of the, at least in the college, right, those agreements, she provided several, but they were really good, solid agreements, but we definitely made it very thin. Focused.
Yeah.
And that was part of that for a long. Review kind of reads. In place.
We won't share with you the track change of those. Really. Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to share the final version.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, this is another one of the areas I think Joe highlighted and said we need to do something about this, and so I appreciate the effort that's gone into it to get us to this point, and the finish line is in sight.
Yes. Thank you. I feel like Joe accomplished his goal.
Few months late, but persevere. Persevere.
As long as you can see the finish line.
And we can see the finish line. I would imagine the team will be bringing this back to you within the next 30 to 60 days.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I think we'll backtrack here and go to 3.4 and got a request from Jackson Street Youth Authority Youth Services Youth Rising Scholarship Sponsorship Request. You're handling that, Maura?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So this, along with the request from ABC House, which is the next one on the agenda, are two sponsorship requests that have come into the board. The current remaining balance through the end of the fiscal year for the board's budget line item for sponsorships is $580. So it's getting down there. Jackson Street, again, if you wanted to choose any amount there, they didn't ask for a specific amount. A historic look back on this one indicates that the county does not have a particular history of sponsoring this event.
And the sponsorship of ABC House started with Commissioner Dixon, because he was on it more. And when I took over that seat on the Board of Commissioners, I just continued to bring it to the group, and we have been sponsors very much annually now for the last, I would say at least 6 years.
Yes, back to 2017. There's one 2020, there was no event. So,
Yeah.
but since 2017 going forward through 2022, yes, it's been pretty consistent at $600 for that one.
And I don't have a strong preference between the two. They're both fantastic organizations. But if we wanted to mix things up, we could give that last $580 to Jackson Street.
Well, we also have the option of moving some money, finding additional
Probably.
I mean, if the board wanted to ask us for further funding within our department budget, I'm sure we can locate that if that's what you desire would come out of the program line, for sure.
Well, I guess I'm in favor of that approach, but I would like to see the list of sponsorships that we in the future for the next budget year. See the list of organizations that we have donated to, and because with this approach, we don't have the opportunity to prioritize our support, and so it's to me it's a little bit it's when the request comes in and we don't get to prioritize.
I think we would need to start building a list of the annual events if we're gonna do that. So that we have a sense for what comes up in a particular calendar year. We've never done that systematically.
That's what I
Yeah.
suggested.
Well, how-
That's something that we can easily do. Sorry, Nancy.
Oh, no problem. So they have 500 what left?
580.
So if we did a table for ABC house, so we make sure we do that right, that's 600. We would need to find $20 for that. Which I'm sure we can do. And then with Jackson Street, so we didn't donate them money last year because I went to their event.
I go to their event regularly.
They just invited us to be nice.
Oh, yeah, they always invite us.
I mean, I made it personal. Private donation, but
Yeah, that's the way, but I've always done that too. But, it's just a matter of whether we want to support them.
so there, let's say, given levels of 5,000 to 500. I mean, we can.
There's also 250.
Okay.
That was good.
I bet you will take into account.
Yeah, sure, yeah, but with 250, you get your logo displayed at the event and listed on the community section of their website. For 500, we add in a verbal mention during the event, which is not a huge difference.
I'm fine with either the 250 or the 500.
I would suggest the 250 since we haven't done it before and we get. So that we do support and it means less budget shuffling.
Yeah, I can agree with that. So we need motions, I think.
Yes.
Probably doing one.
So I move to approve a level of sponsorship amount of $250 for Jackson Street services April 27, 2023. Right.
Second,
All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. Motion carries. And we go to the ABC House, item 3.5.
I move to approve a sponsorship in the amount of $600 for ABC House's April 6, 2023 Celebrate Hope fundraising and awareness dinner.
second,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Thank you, commissioners.
Well, and it would be nice to have a comprehensive list of who we, whether it's an event or just what kind of sponsorship that we've done in the past, and so that we have a list and be able to see when the new organization makes a request, we want to increase the amount that we have to give out, or want to change the amount internally or drop an organization if we add one, or just be able to prioritize our support.
So Chair, are you asking for the board maybe to ask staff to do that?
I think I did. Yes.
Okay, should we make a motion or what?
I don't think that's necessary. I think more will be able to take that and work with it.
the only other thing I would say is that, I would love the opportunity to look at the list and, to add in other community organizations, because you're right, we are responsive and reactive, we don't, proactively look. And it would be kind of nice to look at the landscape and see whether there are organizations that we'd like to sponsor that have not come forward, that might be smaller in nature, or if they just have not, don't know that we do this, and then think about, more systematically.
Right, well, and we have ARPA process as a guide on looking across the community and who are we supporting. So that might be instructive in looking how we handle the ARPA dollars. See how they match up with these requests.
That is a good point. I do prefer to keep some discretion and flexibility.
Absolutely, but, yeah.
That's our job.
Would you like to see that list at one of the next two goal setting meetings as you're looking at the new fiscal year?
I think I'd leave that up to you, put that on your to-do list. When you feel like you have it, then put it on the agenda.
Okay, that-
Talk to the chair about putting.
yes, sir.
Now we're back on track here, 3.7 county administrator search process update. Tracy Martinell. And there she is.
Good morning, commissioners. Just a quick update. Last time that I think I provided you with information on where we were at, we talked about Raftellus being the firm that Suzanne and Rick Kreger and I had reviewed and recommended on going forward. And at that time, I was in the process of doing reference checks on the firm and interviewing their consultant. And so that part of the process has been completed. The contract should be finalized any minute now. Heather Gantz is going to be our recruiter consultant with Raftellus. She and I have already met several times just to start the ball rolling, even in advance of the contract being finalized. And just wanted to give you a sense of what was going to be happening over the next couple of weeks so that you would know what to expect. And if you had any questions or concerns, you had an opportunity to share those with me. But the plan right now is that Heather and I will be meeting with you, each of you, over the next couple of weeks to gain your input on profiling the ideal candidate and helping Heather to understand, a little bit more about Benton County culture and, what your priorities might be and what the challenges are that you foresee for the next county administrator. I'd also ask you to think about whether there are any external people that you might want to include to also provide input. We'll be sending survey questionnaires out to all of the department directors, as well as the Board of Commissioners administrative office team, to be able to also gain their input into what they would like to see in the next county administrator. Let's see what else. I've introduced Heather to Corey. Corey has already started planning for providing additional support and assistance in promoting and marketing this position locally and regionally. So looking forward to, really being able to put that Benton County culture stamp on the promotional materials. Let's see. And I just plan on getting on your agenda for the next few months on a regular basis so that I can provide you with regular updates. And of course, if there's anything that pops up in between those meetings, I'll be sure to inform you via email. But with that, happy to hear any questions that you might have or any concerns.
I'm just really glad this is moving forward. I wanted to let you all know that spent a little time on the sidelines of the AOC meetings yesterday, speaking to Commissioner Les Perkins Wood River. It looks like we're about 2 or 3 weeks ahead of them in terms of our search, which makes me happy. But I also think having them overlap out there might be good for both of us as well. So yeah.
Very interesting. I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yeah, their county administrator just retired and so they were in pretty much the same position we are. And it was interesting comparing notes also from the perspective of housing, that they are very, very expensive county for housing, and it's a huge barrier to them recruiting and commiserate.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. They're similarly landlocked like we are in terms of, access to a major metropolitan area to draw from.
Yeah, one of the things that Les was telling me was that the county has changed a lot, and that especially with COVID, they have become a huge commuter county. So there are a lot of people living there for the lifestyle, moved there, and people that own vacation homes that have moved there permanently now. So it's changed the housing market, and they are more than ever kind of like an exurb of the Portland metro area, and yet they have, of course, that huge agricultural valley. So
Along those lines, I haven't heard anything about Lincoln County.
They have a county administrator they hired last year,
Okay,
and I met him at the AOC annual meeting. He seems to be doing pretty well.
I guess my question, Tracy, could you give a kind of a rough calendar, how you anticipate this process playing out?
I can give you a rough idea. It will be very similar to what we've seen in the past. Of course, Heather will be putting together that plan for you, and incorporating your input into the plan as well. But it will be Heather will do the initial vetting of the candidates, and then formulate an assessment of each of the candidates who qualify, share that with us. We'll be able to review that. I'm sure Heather will also make some recommendations on who to move forward to an interview. And then that would kind of start the ball rolling for us. In the past, we've had a 2-day process where we did several rounds of interviews with both internal and external stakeholders. We've held a public reception as well. Let's see. Once a selection is made, we will either conduct the reference checks ourselves, or Heather will be able to conduct those background checks for us. So some of those decisions are yet to be made.
Okay, how soon do you anticipate this search starting publicly? Like our announcement that we are looking.
Well, subject to calendars and availability, hoping to complete the input process over the next couple of weeks. Ideally, we'd have a launch at the 1st of April. It may not be exactly on the 1st of April, but I would say the first part of April is reasonable.
And then if things go well, how long will that, do you anticipate that being open?
Boy. We're seeing a range, I think. Heather and I talked about over the last couple of years, it's been realistically about 45 to 60 days to develop a sufficient pool of qualified applicants. Some of that will depend upon the requirements for the position. And I just say that some of the questions that you'll be asked are, would you accept a candidate with only city management experience if it was a comparable sized organization? Or if the candidates had no governmental experience, but maybe had a background in working closely with governments and had private sector business experience. So again, depending upon how wide or how narrow the qualifications for the position will be, will really determine about, I think what we can expect in terms of response.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Tracy?
Not at this time.
I appreciate being updated on this, and just so that we can feel secure knowing that things are moving along.
Yeah, I'm of the same mind. Just eager to keep it moving.
Yeah.
I don't want us to be the delay either, so I will definitely prioritize any meeting that we have with you and Heather Gantz.
Thank you, commissioners. Will do. We'll be in touch shortly.
Well, sounds good, Tracy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, before we do our next item, which is County Administrator update, I would like us to stretch and we may move over in this direction. Maybe by Nora, maybe.
Should we just awkwardly stand by this blue thing?
Yeah. Oh.
Yes.
Don't make faces, that too.
I didn't even recognize whatever's in the corner.
Oh, it's a blue clock.
It's a Benson blue, right?
Well,
I'm sure it would look to be well. It's the Kleenex box out.
to start off the transition process here, we have something for you, Joe.
Be careful because these. are. Ta-da.
Ta-da. So,
Wow, looks beautiful.
for your new digs.
Yeah.
Something to remember us by, and it's, oh, look, there's writing and everything on
Oh,
that.
thank you so much. That looks beautiful. Oh my gosh. I will never forget Jason, that's for sure.
We were talking about the courthouses earlier in the meeting, so
Yeah, yeah.
this is kind of a recording of our meetings, so.
Thank you.
And if it looks a little familiar, but a little not, I guess it's been hanging around for quite a while in the office, but Nora
Is that right?
got it framed and.
Yeah, it's a beautiful frame.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful frame. Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks.
You take a picture with all.
Yeah, can
Yes, too.
we get the picture in front of the picture?
What would you like?
Just have you all stand right, where Commissioner White.
You want us up?
Up there or down here?
I think we'll do it down here because the chair will, up there will be in the photo. And I can get the
You want me to move?
courthouse in the background.
Just
Maybe
a little
chairs?
the snow.
No, that's fine.
We're blocking, we're actually.
I will have the two on the outside, yeah, at like a 45-degree angle. There you go.
I've had so much practice over the last few years.
1, 2, 3. Excellent. One more. 1, 2, 3. Great.
Thank you, Commissioner. This is very special.
Oh, thank you. And yes, as Davis has said, the courthouse is very emblematic of your time here at this point, so.
Yeah, that's absolutely. Thank you so much. How do we put it on here more of that?
Take care of that for you,
I'm gonna have this on my second and last day. I couldn't. I forgot that I did it just sent me there.
Well, we didn't want to put that actually on the agenda. Surprise.
Definitely surprised until you stood up and walked over there and didn't even recognize there was something in the corner. Trying to multitask this morning, so obviously wasn't paying close enough attention.
Well, it worked out well.
Thank you. That's beautiful. And more, thank you for putting that together.
Is. So. Now we're ready to 3.8, and the administrator update, some translation.
Commissioner, I'm going to ask Suzanne, if there she is, to join me. This was really set for 45 minutes. I don't think it will take nearly that long. I just have a couple of updates for you, and then I'm happy to answer any questions as I am departing as it relates to things that you are curious about or would like an update on. Suzanne and I will do the best that we can to update you. As you know, my last day is tomorrow, and sorry, composure. So, as you know, my last day is tomorrow. And
think we're all just gonna start crying. soon ourselves.
Just,
They're still there, they're just on the wrong side of the table.
Enjoy this, must on the agenda. Yeah, it's no crying allowed. Yeah, my kids know how sensitive I am.
Amanda's crying too, she says, and she's not even in the room.
So I will just share with you a couple of things, as you know, over the last 30, 45, 60 days, I've really been trying to focus on a couple of things. One of those primarily is the budget. And when Rick, Craig and I developed a budget calendar last fall, we had a target of March 15 by which to finish our portion of the budget. And so I invited Suzanne to be part of that process because I didn't feel like I should be the only one weighing in on the decisions, considering that I wasn't going to be here long term. And so Suzanne and Rick and I, supported by Jen Anziel, walked through all the policy packages. And comes up that we'll have our recommended decisions relative to the budget. You'll be seeing that in about a month for the first time. I think the budget committee hearing starting somewhere around April 15th or 18th off the top of my head. We are still working over the course of the next couple of days to reconcile some figures relative to the community health centers. But other than that, I think we have arrived at our March 15th deadline in good shape. And want to thank Suzanne as well as Rick Prager, our CFO, who's done a stellar job of helping us navigate through the process. So happy to say that I can check that one off my list as well. Also, Suzanne and I have had a host of transition meetings, just me briefing her on a variety of different topics, both past, current, and future. And so I haven't gotten into great detail on each topic, but I've given her a cursory summary of each topic in her item. And so hopefully she'll feel better equipped having that context. I did share with Suzanne and Commissioner Long yesterday that I am available. So anybody can call me anytime. And I'm happy to answer. Actually, Tracy was trying to work valiantly on something, and she said, "Joe, I promised to have this before you left." And I said, "Tracy, just because March 15th, or I doesn't mean I'm gone."
We really appreciate that, Joe. Well, just like the agreement with the health clinics, and there's lots of projects that you've initiated, and some are fairly complete, and some aren't. And you've been the driving force on a lot of these. So I can see some phone calls and maybe even Zoom meetings in the future.
Happy to answer. So I think all of you have my personal cell phone. If not, I'll make sure to shoot that an email to you before tomorrow. So don't hesitate to call me very happy to help.
You're only one time zone ahead of us.
Only 1 hour difference. Yes. Don't call me after 10 at night though. Okay, so budget transition meetings and lastly, I'm working on performance evaluations. I'll have all performance evaluations completed with the exception of one, which is Jesse Onstead is doing April 1st. So Suzanne will take that one. But the other outstanding performance evaluations that have been due over the last month or two, wrapping those up with more tomorrow afternoon. So tomorrow afternoon, more and I will be having happy more. In terms of the drinking part. Also, I'm happy to share, as you know, that we have a new natural areas of parks and defense director. That information will be forthcoming throughout the rest of the day and tomorrow to the various stakeholder groups. I'm pleased that we've been able to arrive at a decision there, and that was number one of my targets, was to make sure we had that recruitment wrapped up before I left, and unfortunately.
Great.
So I'm very happy about that. Jesse is aware of that, as well as the department is aware of that, and other applications are going. So that's really good. So with that being said, those are the loose ends that I'm trying to tie up. And open to questions, concerns, as well as asking Suzanne to share any concerns that she might have or questions. So I will stand down and respond accordingly.
Well, one concern I have is your yellow pad there. That has the list of 40-some items, projects that you're working on, and that it's Suzanne inherits, and I hope there's some kind of prioritization, and it's a little like a recipe, and well, here's the ingredients, but there's details around the items on the list, and I think as much information as you can transfer ahead of time, and like you said, be available with some clarification. This is a big handoff.
Thank you, Commissioner. I wish I could say that I did a good job of prioritizing them. It was more just bringing sort of the list, and I have gone through a couple of iterations of it. And so I haven't done as good of a job identifying prioritization relative to these things. However, I do have a lot of confidence in Suzanne, and I think she has a great head on her shoulders, and she'll be able to navigate that. I can certainly use the list and highlight the ones that I think are the most urgent, and maybe the ones that are most important, and translate that. I wouldn't say that I approached it from the perspective of priorities.
Sure. I've watched you in action, and you add another one, and hopefully something drops off, but I think that's important to give some context for those items.
The question is, what concerns do we have?
Yeah, and are there any questions that you have for me relative to the transition of a particular project, where we stand on something that you want to ask before I exit stage right? I'm open to sharing anything that you may have a desire to hear about, or if there are concerns you want to express to Suzanne regarding the transition, you're more than welcome to do that as well.
Yes, I don't have any concerns. I know that there's gonna be some bumps in the road, but I feel really good about the fact that you have led the county in the right direction the past 5 years, and got things going down the right path. And I have a lot of trust in Suzanne. I have a lot of trust in Tracy, who's gonna help us, guide us to find a new permanent person. I'm not concerned. So thank you everyone for all your good work.
So I say thank you. I agree. I think you brought us in good shape. It's fantastic that you were able to stay through the budget process. I think that was probably the biggest well launched when it comes to our mission. If I have any concerns, my biggest one is just the continuity of the management and oversight of the major construction projects we have going right now. Hopefully, it won't have to be its office and crisis center. And making sure that we are aware of any major strategic decisions that need to be made.
And I think one of the things I would suggest, Commissioners, and Suzanne and I have talked about this, and Rick Brayer and I have talked about this, and I think Tracy as well. And that is, if the bond passes in May, or when the bond passes in May, I really think we may need to look at how we're managing those projects in a different way. Concerning relative to capacity for our staff, and so I think if there is anything that I think is a burning issue, it's really how best do we manage all of those various construction projects. And as you indicated, you already have two currently that we're managing. But I do think that is one of those areas that still definitely needs attention and discussion. And I think that there's lots of options, possibilities, without a doubt. But I do think that time needs to be spent from myself and my colleagues that have some initial discussions around.
So by the end of May, we'll be having additional discussions. Have ideas beforehand, I hope. But yeah.
Suzanne, anything you would like to comment on there?
Just to say thank you, Joe, for the transition time, for confidence in me, and for giving me the honor of working with the last 2.5 years.
Thank you.
Suzanne, you anticipate moving once we have an empty office and Joe's office? Do you anticipate moving into this building?
Yes, I do. I'll see you there on Thursday morning this week.
Is that,
And I'm committed to Suzanne that the office will be clean. It hasn't been clean in months. Looks like a bomb on.
Sure, popped on.
Sheriff, do you have anything to add to the conversation here?
Well, I find it ironic that tomorrow is 2 years to the day that I was sworn in, and Joe is leaving. And when I went to the new Sheriff's Academy my first week, they made two very clear points, Sheriff Nelson from Deschutes County. That was have a good relationship with your county commissioners and have an even better relationship with your county administrator. And the last 2 years have been a whirlwind for me. And because of my relationship with Joe and the three of you, I feel like we've accomplished quite a bit. We're going to continue to accomplish some stuff. I think Joe is leaving a pretty good footprint for us. And I'm just excited for our future. I'm excited for his future. And on a personal note, most recently, Joe's had the opportunity to provide a little counsel for me. And I really appreciate that, Joe. Thank you very much. So you'll be missed, and you won't be far away. Trust me. Cell phones have ruined that for everybody. So there you go. Thank you, Joe. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Well, you've left us in good shape, Joe, through your extraordinarily hard work and identifying needs that we had, and doing your best to make sure we had the staff to do what we're trying to do. I think I feel good about some of what, well, like the sheriff and some other department heads that we've gotten in the last few years, and office staff. I think we're functioning on a fairly high level. Our 8-month-old PIO there in the background, that the pieces are in place to move forward, and we have when the bond passes in May, we have a lot going on, and I think we may need some supplemental help, but the big individuals are in place to move us forward. Thank you for your considerable effort towards getting Benton County on a good path.
Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure to serve without a doubt, and I have the Beaver blood in me now, and so just so you know, even though I graduated from the University of Colorado, when they play Oregon State, I'll be cheering for Oregon State.
That is a picture and all your favorite here.
Dog's cheap. Well, that's do that.
I do want to acknowledge that, when you first began, from the very beginning, you had put a really high priority on, financial, reorganization. And it was something that, as a new commissioner, I didn't perceive as the top burning issue, but I have to say I appreciate that focus immensely. And I think that, the changes that you led, the vision you had for finance department and for a new CFO has made a huge difference in our readiness for change all across the organization. So thank you.
I mean, you've had a lot of other folks helping you along the way, I'm sure, including Mary Otto.
Well, and along those lines, for new initiatives, hiring the Gallup firm to talk to our staff and see, try to get the temperature of how we're doing now and looking to how we can improve our staff's efforts and coordination and retention, and COVID interrupted the effort, but I'm sure that's on the yellow legal pad. Something that is in the works in this case. It's not brand new, but needs to get the momentum going again. But I think that's an important effort that you got started, and thank you for that. I mean, we have quite a bit to do in our daily tasks, but the thought of, well, how can we do this differently? How can we do it better? I think it's an important effort that I look forward to continuing.
Certainly, and Suzanne will continue to carry the baton as relates to our department state of the team meetings, as well as our leadership team state of the team meetings.
Great. Anything else? Say something more.
I'll say something more. I was one of my best hires. Yeah.
Thank you, Joe. I'm glad you brought me here to Benton County.
Second best, sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
Maura, good to see you.
What was he doing?
Oh, good.
I was just concurring with Joe. I think you're his best hire as well.
I'll talk with you later, Sheriff. Yeah, this is it's a really bittersweet time for me. You know, I'm excited for Joe and his new opportunity and for his chance to, you know, be back in the fold of his family. And I'm very excited to have an opportunity to work very closely with Suzanne, who we don't know each other well yet, but we've had some meetings and I enjoy her very much and her approach to the office. And so, yeah, it's a tough time. There's good things happening for Joe, and but it's bittersweet for me.
I've got an idea. Why don't we have a going away party tomorrow?
I think that sounds like a wonderful idea. Why don't we do it here tomorrow at 11:30?
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Anything else? If not, next up is commissioner updates. I think we're right on schedule. Happens every once in a while.
Well, everyone's looking at me, should I say something? I can start with that report. I'll start off by saying that, I feel as though I have a second job at the moment. Given the bond that you're on. And, that has probably taken up the majority of any of my non-county business focused time. It's still a pleasure to make community presentations alongside the sheriff. One for tonight, the human borders, the library, and a few more following, but look forward to continuing to work on that project. Aside from that, AOC has also been very busy with the legislative session, and my role as the co-chair of the Health and Human Services Steering Committee. I have been engaged on almost daily basis with some sort of something coming up that needs commentary, refinement, reaction as AOC navigates the relationship with the new governor and with the legislature that has very ambitious goals for both homelessness and behavioral health based on the governor's agenda. And so it's been pretty exciting, but also just another big demand. The AOC meeting yesterday was interesting. The most contentious issues actually came up in the context of the Natural Resources Committee this time around rather than Health and Human Services, for which I was really relieved. It can be challenging to be in the center of things, but I want to say that one of the big issues that we've been following for Health and Human Services has been the relationship between public health and the Oregon Health Authority, because of the shift that was made during COVID and to Governor Brown's Racial Equity Council to run to send a lot of public health dollars out to across the state through community-based organizations instead of local health departments. And they did that without consultation with the legislature or with local health departments, which meant that a lot of health departments got less money than they expected from or health authority for their support. And in many cases where there were no community-based organizations, the organizations that were funded were in the Portland metro area, and the Oregon Health Authority did no prior consultation with the local health departments or commissioners about funding an out area community-based to provide services on the ground in their community. So it's been a bit of a firestorm, yes, Friday the steering committee approved a negotiated intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority between them and the AOC representing us as commissioners, and then it also goes through the CLO, the local health organizations counterpart, and I could never remember what CLO stands for. Suzanne could tell me.
Conference of Local Health Officials.
Thank you. Conference of Local Health Officials. So both bodies approved that interagency agreement with the Oregon Health Authority that really specifies kind of the state of play in terms of coordination, and that there will that jointly we will be looking at more money for the public health modernization bucket, so that community-based organizations can be funded to assist in providing culturally appropriate, culturally specific services and address most vulnerable populations, but it won't undermine or undercut the basic core capacities of public health in some of our counties. Of course, the counties that are most at least are the ones that are smallest in terms of population, and just any diminution of their funds cuts into core capacity. So that was, we thought we might have a battle on that yesterday at AOC, but fortunately, due to side conversations, we were able to smooth that out. But there was an interesting conversation about ADUs on rural resource lands. You know, and it's an area that has gotten more heated as the housing conversation heats up. And so there's this pressure for, you know, any housing anywhere is a good thing versus trying to retain the
Rural character.
the rural character.
Intent of our development.
Exactly, intent of the land use planning system. And so those are budding up. Frankly, I would expect that we might end up seeing some sort of a work group task force, something coming out of the legislature to focus on that specifically. Because as we all know, there are many unpermitted homes throughout our rural communities, not just in Benton County, but all over the state. And so, yes, we have one set of rules, but there's another reality, and somehow the system needs to be squared so that we can either through ordinance or through change to the land use system address it. And the consensus around the table yesterday at AOC was that we wanted to address that challenge through local ordinance rather than changes to the land use system.
Yeah.
But as we'll see how that goes, because the legislature is shifting and it's we'll see how it evolves.
Very interested in that conversation.
Yeah. So and the other area where there was quite a bit of conversation is about emergency management capacity. There are several rules from the Evans, but that have not been developed in constitution counties. He wants to increase more funding into the system, which will fund more positions at the state level and some at the county level as well. But there's not enough recognition of how things work at the county level, at the space level of emergency management, and recognition of the fact that the structures are different. In you know, some places in the sheriff's office, some it's in board of commissioner's office, function of emergency management, and then what's the role of cities? So there's quite a bit of jockeying going on in that space in terms of funds, and more cities are asking for FEMA dollars now for the emergency management preparedness grant bucket, but it's a finite bucket. And so as there are, you know, to use the analogy, more straws in the bucket, that it's heading into the core funding for basic emergency management planning. The counties have a mandate to do that management planning, whereas cities don't have, are mandated, it's optional. So there's a tussle going on in that space. And Lane County is trying to get out ahead of that and really recommend a new revenue stream in order to support the core function of county emergency planning. So we'll see what comes of that. Again, I think that's going to be just it's going to be a starter discussion. I don't expect it will be resolved this session. But those were two of the issues that were front and center yesterday. So far.
Good. As long as we're on a legislative theme, I was on the AOC Transportation Community Development meeting last Friday. There was a fair amount of talk about broadband, and there's significant federal money out there, and right now Oregon could qualify for approximately $1 billion worth of federal funding, but with our current laws that don't match up with the federal rules very well, we are in the $500 million range. So there's $500 million sitting there, and House Bill 3201 seemed like there were several bills, but that's the one that is the most central to fixing Oregon law to capture some of that $500 million that's potentially there. And so my question is, so AOC is working on this. I assume that got supported yesterday.
Yeah, I think it was one of the bills that was just swept into the support.
Yeah, I would see that.
And and we added our, that was, we put in a letter of support for that bill. There's one letter of requests, the logo requests we got last week. I think that that's likely to move. I don't think it's terribly at risk, given that we stand to lose so many federal dollars. We don't align our criteria for broadband with the federal government's.
And so I guess my question is, do we alert Zach Reeves and put that on his list and track, or just wondering how, since this is the first session where we've had.
It doesn't hurt.
Should we ask staff for?
Well, what I've been doing in these kinds of situations is just letting Joe and Rick Crater know, and then they.
Yeah, that'd be good, but that's common.
But yeah.
It's Rick Prager,
Yep,
you know?
yep.
And so.
Yep.
She can, maybe I'll call him, but he's still primarily liaison right now with CFO because.
And I think it makes sense because if that supports some of our other initiatives that we're looking at federal level, radio communications, et cetera. It's just part of that big bundle.
And we don't want to do too many asks from Zach. I mean, we have to prioritize, but it seems like this would be a fairly easy one to track and make sure it's moving forward. That it doesn't have to do a whole lot.
And I think that's exactly it. It's just that what I've been trying to do is make sure that anytime I testify or do anything, either through AOC, that I let Rick and Zach know, just so that they're aware, so that there's alignment. Because we need to make sure all the communications channels are firing. So you may already know because of the fact that we signed on to that broadband letter prior, but it doesn't hurt. You'll give it a shout.
So just a question on that. So Joe or Suzanne, can you pass that along to Rick, or do you want the chair to do that, or what's?
Sure, I'll leave it up to Suzanne if Suzanne is still on board here. There she is.
Will do. Could you give me that House bill number one more time, Commissioner Malone?
Yeah, 3201.
Got it. Okay. I'll get that to Rick.
And another one that affects us and is House Bill 2296, the PERS reform to do away with or extend the deadline for PERS employees and how long they can continue working. And my understanding is that has good support from firefighters and law enforcement and with that. I know that affects Rick Prager and so. And it's in general, I think probably a good idea to support and make sure it's on track. And again, I don't think we have to do much heavy lifting. There are other organizations that are motivated to make sure this keeps moving. So Suzanne, that one's 2296. House Bill 2296. And I think that's all I have.
All right, well, I will jump in. So we had a local officials advisory committee meeting yesterday where we appointed new members. To LOAC, Commissioner Jennifer Muir of Hood River County. Commissioner Jim Hampshire of Green County. So if we run into either one of those commissioners, tell them congratulations. And then Elizabeth Adams from the city of Astoria, Joe Benetti, mayor of Coos Bay, and then Pam Van Arsdale, mayor of Rogue River City. So we are going to be operating with a full committee again. That's exciting. And I think the topic that you were talking about, Commissioner Monroe, this committee will be very interested in as well, so I will reach out to Kirsten Green, the LCD and Steve, and at least make sure that she is communicating with AOC, which she probably is, but I'm gonna see if we need to add this to a future.
That's good. I would just say, I'm gonna jump back for a sec. The other bill that got a lot of discussion yesterday at the AOC meeting was House Bill 3368 about responsible water accounting. Yeah, and that was a very interesting conversation. I think it's a Rep. Owens bill, former commissioner, and leader on water issues, and he's trying to push us into the space where several other states already are in terms of really doing the water accounting, looking at water rights and which basins are oversubscribed and which ones are undersubscribed, which surprised me, and by how much, and trying to create a statewide baseline because we don't have that. And without that, can't do much of anything. There were many people around the table that were really frightened by the idea of having that clarity. And so, but it was a very interesting discussion to listen to. And I was among the majority of commissioners, because it went to the voice vote, who were strongly in favor of doing this work, even though it might be scary to people and it might challenge and threaten some interests around the state. We have to know what our water resources are so we can plan accordingly.
Well, if we need any example of lack of planning with Colorado River.
Yeah,
And so.
I'm grateful that we don't intend for our ability water source on a river that we share with so many other states in the country. I mean, that's the reality.
Yeah, so we're good on that topic. Okay, you guys already interrupted. That's okay. My other question had to do with, there was a request for someone to testify about courthouse bonds, and we were both unavailable.
Well, that's Thursday.
Did it already pass?
See, Paul also.
I heard you talking about the courthouse
It
repairs.
was repairs. Yeah, it was the bond.
Yeah, that's for $500,000.
There was a, said 23-25 bonds and 23-25 improvements, but anyway, so that's when we passed.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it's passed.
So Paul testified on Thursday.
Oh, excuse me.
On our,
The event already occurred.
yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
That's fine.
I think
I
that's,
hadn't heard any feedback, but he was signed up to testify.
Yeah, I had spoken to him since we asked him to attend. You know, I think it's likely they've been in the queue for a number of years now.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that.
Sure. It's just a matter of whether they put any money in it or not, because in the last budget, they did not put any money in for any of the repairs and maintenance.
right, but we were, so according to the list that AOC representatives had prioritized, that the county was the first on
Yep.
that list.
Have been last couple rounds.
Actually, I think our 3 projects have been like in the top 5 or 6 of that list.
So, okay, just wanted to double check on that.
There are some advantages to having the oldest courthouse in the state.
I guess the only other thing I'll mention is that I just see that Paul Odendahl joined us, and I don't know if we wanted to share, if we want to check with him and see if he wanted to say something, or if he's just. Nope. Hi, Paul.
Hey, good morning. Good to see you all. Thank you, Chair Wise. Just listening in today.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
And my colleague, Commissioner Malone is now the chair, so
Oh, my apologies.
that's okay.
We take turns.
Yeah, okay.
But thanks for listening in. So yeah, I'm good. That's everything.
Anything else for the good of the order?
Okay,
Meeting adjourned.
thank you.
I had a schedule.
Like 10 minutes.
Thank you again, commissioners.